This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I am excited to be here tonight because we truly have a groundbreaking show on multiple fronts. I am joined with two people that I hold in high regard, two people that have helped mentor me, given me guidance, shared their work. It has been an incredible learning experience for me. I will be joined in a moment with Fran and Peter Davenport. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about my week. So thanks to the help of Barry Greenwood, he assisted me in purchasing a book collection from Mary Kastner at QFOS. That book collection arrived last Saturday, and I have been busy making a library that will be accessible to the public. I have over 300 books right now, and they will continue to come. I have amazing things here. So as far as Utah goes, it will be the best collection. I hope to get the work of others and to be able to share this and pass this on with future generations and to teach them the importance of this work. It is a really exciting time for me personally, so I can't wait. If you ever make it to Utah, give me a call, please. Let's get in here and look at all of these wonderful materials. So thank you, Barry Greenwood. You mean the world to me, and I'm happy that you are my friend and a mentor. Tonight on the show, we have Fran, who has been on my show before. Francis has done incredible things, and he started his work on MADAR decades ago. It is now fully coming into fruition, and I am in chat, and I'm looking at one of my friends, Northern UFOs, who actually has a MADAR unit up in his neck of the woods. I have one here. People are getting them and putting them in their homes so they can conduct real research. We're going to learn more about that. And Fran has joined forces with Peter Davenport to help move research forward. So this is really a groundbreaking time. I'm so happy to be a part of this. The UFO Reporting Center was founded in October 1974 by Rob Gribble, who was a Seattle firefighter. Peter Davenport took over New Fork in 1994 and has been virtually a one-man show. He's absolutely incredible. New Fork has a 24-hour hotline. I know because I have called it before, and Peter has answered and always been so kind to me. Peter received his undergraduate education at Stanford University, where he earned his bachelor's degree in Russian and biology. He is also a translator's certificate. He received this in Russian translation. His graduate education was completed at the University of Washington in Seattle, where he earned an MS degree in genetics and biochemistry of fish from the College of Fisheries, as well as an MBA degree in finance and international business from the Graduate School of Business. He's worked as a college instructor, commercial fisherman, Russian translator in the Soviet Union, and much, much more. He is also one of my heroes, and if you go to YouTube, and you can find a lot of really important interviews and videos with him. He's been leading the way for a long time. Fran, who has been on, he started this way back in 1960, and from 60 to 71, he headed a 7-man investigation team in Indiana for NICAP, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. And if you listen to my past shows with Jan Aldrich, Barry Greenwood, we'll talk about NICAP. Very cool. He also in 1970 began working on a basic UFO detection system. And this is where we've got MADAR, the multiple anomaly detection and automated recording system, coming up into play. And we're going to talk about that. But welcome to the show, both of you. It is great, and it's an honor to have you here together at the same time.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you for
having us on, and it's a real pleasure to be with you, and it's an honor to appear together with Fran Ridge. His name is one that I've recognized in ufology for decades, and I think this is the first time that Fran and I appear together on a radio program. I'm delighted, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
And isn't that incredible? I just have to say this means a lot to me to have these experiences happen on the show, because like I said, I think the world of both of you, and Fran, thank you for being here. I know you were excited about this too.
Oh yeah, and I don't know how everybody feels about this, that, and the other as far as a greater force that exists, but there's something out there that has to be helping me, because my hamburger brain wouldn't figure out these things. And a week ago, I came up with this great idea, and I've been working on it all week. So I'm very excited.
So tell us what this new idea is, Fran.
Well, it's one thing to get these devices in select locations and having them run 24/7. And a lot of the people that have them don't really have the time to do too much more than that. So to ask them to watch sightings in their state and to collect sightings and do their own homework, that's asking a lot. And I was thinking it would be difficult for a lot of them to do it. And then it just hit me. Peter Davenport has been collecting sightings for all these years, and they're in a database. And I've always been interested in using databases and checking those against my MADAR events, because, in the Midwest you've got Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky. So I've been used to doing that sort of thing. So I thought, why don't we take the MADAR events by date and time and punch them in and get them in the database? And then it hit me, too, that Peter gets a lot of reports and doesn't really have time to assign them out to investigate, where MUFON they get a lot of higher quality, in some cases, at least more comprehensive reports, and they investigate them, but it's very difficult to retrieve them. And to be honest with you, I find it difficult to even use their case management system. So I thought, why don't I go week by week, look at my states anyway, and look for specific cases that Peter doesn't have, and punch those in this database. So that's what I've been doing all week. And today I spent the better part of an afternoon going over what I call the alert starts printouts for each of you guys out there. I ran yours, of course, and it shows all the alert starts that you had, so that tells me those are the days I need to look at. And if there's anything in there that looks like it should be punched in, I did it. But I don't want to overwhelm a good thing, so we don't want to punch in everything that happens. But if we had, say, for instance, 10 alert starts from one unit, and there's one or two that look very suspicious, that's the one we choose and put in there. So now we're looking forward to, after a few weeks, looking back at the data and see where the cases fall, and where the detections fall.
And you bring up a point that I want to make, because in Utah, it is really hard to get people to report things. And I think a lot of times people don't know where to go. I would highly suggest going to New Fork and reporting the sighting, and letting, because this is a database that we can look at. We can look at the sightings reports online, and that's important for an investigator. So, Peter, I appreciate that you do that and make that available to people.
You bet, and thanks for the comment, Erica. Just for the benefit of some of our listeners who may not know what New Fork means, that's the National UFO Reporting Center, and we have a website. It's just UFOcenter.com, UFOCENTER.com, UFOcenter.com. And there's an online report form there they can fill out. And I think Fran has come up with a fantastic idea, looking for correlations between registers or detections that his systems register and seeing whether there's a sighting in the vicinity, reported from the vicinity of that MADAR anomaly or MADAR detection. So I commend Fran. Once again, he's a very creative thinker I've observed over many, many years, and he's come up with a great idea. I like the idea immensely, and I'm pleased to play a role in it.
And that is so awesome. I mean, I've talked to Fran off and on just to hear the excitement and to know that this is trickling down to everybody that's involved with MADAR and you, Peter. I mean, this hasn't been done before. And so for me in Utah, I want to just put the word out and say, if you are in this area, please file a report. Make sure it goes to New Fork so I can look at that and correlate it with the data that I'm getting with MADAR, because right now we just don't have a lot of people reporting, and that really is critical.
Yeah. By the way, Fran's voice is very faint. If the engineer could bring up the volume a bit, that would be helpful. I don't know what the listeners are hearing, but I can barely hear him.
We will do that. And so I have to just ask both of you, and I'll ask Peter first, how did you first get started? What was your interest in this field, in this subject?
Yeah, I wish I'd never gotten involved, frankly. It's a lot of very hard work and frustration, and I'll bet from time to time Fran would come up with a similar comment, but I made the mistake of seeing a UFO when I was a kid. And I believe the date was sometime in July, possibly August, and I think the year was 1954, on the St. Louis airport. I was at a drive-in theater sitting in the right-hand seat of a 53 Studebaker, our family car, and my whole family saw an immensely bright fire engine red object about the size of a full moon moved directly over the airport, and it was an incredible sighting. To this day, I have a very clear image of what it looked like in my mind's eye. Well, I don't think I would be on this program had it not been for that event. Later on, as a high school student, I wrote a paper on the incident at Exeter, which had occurred just up the road a ways from where I graduated from high school in New Hampshire. And I've been hooked by the subject ever since, and I make no apologies for being hooked by this subject. I'll bet Fran would agree that it's probably the most important scientific question that has ever confronted mankind to this point in our history, namely, are we alone or are we not? And to many of us in the field, the clear answer to that question is we are not alone, and it looks to me as though we're being visited regularly. I would love to hear what Fran has to say on that issue.
Well, it always bothered me when somebody would call it a hobby of mine, because it certainly isn't and wasn't a hobby. And I got hooked just like you did. It wasn't really a sighting that got me hooked. It was Captain Ruppelt's report on unidentified objects that got me really fired up about doing something, but I didn't know what to do. And I really don't even know how I found out about NICAP, but when I did, it all started falling together. And I didn't have a sighting of my own until probably 61 or 62, somewhere about there. I can't remember the date right in front of me. But we had a team and the NICAP subcommittee, and Philip Studler, one of my field investigators, was living in town, and my family were living out in the country. And he called, and he said there was a UFO, or unidentified light, that was headed in my direction. We lived on a hill, and the object came into view And the whole family eventually got out and looked because it was pretty bright. And there was a jet following it. And you could hear the jet before you could actually see it, of course. But it was really tearing after it. And when the object was heading southeast, it banked, and when it banked, it flashed real bright. And I'm thinking, this must have been something very thin and flat, because when it banked, the moon in the east hit it just right, and it just blew us away. And there was like 5 or 6 people that saw that. And of course, that's considered a nocturnal light, because anything beyond 500 feet is not considered a close encounter. But that was enough for me.
And I will say, for me too. I mean, I had a sighting. I mean, I've had interesting sightings throughout my life, but it's these little defining moments when you see things, and that was what propelled you in this direction. And for me, it's been hard and frustrating, just like it has been for both of you. But I feel so invigorated by what's happening, and I know in my heart, with every ounce of my being, that this is a critical time, and this is something that we have to get good information out there. And I'm proud to be doing that with both of you.
Well, we're glad to work with you. I might say this, and Peter will appreciate this too. I don't know if he's thought about it or not, but a lot of people read books and they become very knowledgeable about UFOs, and they can get up and talk all day about it. And others go deeper than that and actually get into investigation and stand face to face with witnesses, and they know in most cases what sincere people are trying to tell them. But there's another part to that Peter and I both realize, is when you also have a sighting yourself, you're way ahead of those people that say they've investigated cases and read books, because that alone, although it's very important and it's very interesting, when you have your own sighting, especially when you know what you saw was not just unidentified, but something much more important than that. But so we both had sightings. I wasn't sure. I didn't know that Peter had a sighting like that.
Offline, Fran, I'll send you links to the 3 or 4, maybe 5 sightings that I've had during my lifetime that I have written up and recorded on the UFO Center website. I've seen some strange things, and they're what propel me even further to work harder in the field of ufology to try to get to the bottom of this. And the importance of this work is not just knowledge, of course. The importance of this work is that, in my opinion, there could very easily be, alien creatures on this planet that are influencing the direction the planet goes one way or another. And I think for that reason alone, it's imperative that we continue to try to get to the bottom of it. I feel very uncomfortable with the thought that there could be intelligent creatures on this planet that are doing things and attempting to elicit certain responses in the human population without our knowledge. That's my greatest fear. And when I look at what government is doing to us at present, that tends to underscore my alarm.
And that is an incredible point. And I want to go back to really quick the comments about having personal sightings. Fran, I think you are right on, because when you have these personal sightings, you don't need to prove to the world that this exists. We know it does. So I'm not going to spend the rest of my life trying to prove it to anybody. I'm moving forward with research. And that's why I think there is such an important difference. But Peter, to go to your point, the games at hand and the current situation, I think has really raised a lot of concern for those of us who care about this subject. What are your thoughts on everything that is taking place right now?
Well, I'm encouraged that there seems to be more attention being paid to the field, but I'm disappointed that the caliber of work is relatively low, in the sense that people have come forward recently asserting that the U.S. government had an organization, an office in the Pentagon, and to the best of my knowledge, they've released but one report about the F-18s that pursued an object over the Pacific near San Diego. The question I have for that individual or that team of government or former government workers is, where are the other reports? Well, the part of the reason I admire the work that Fran has done over the decades, he's been at it for a long time, is he's the type of person who rolls up his sleeves and doesn't talk about it, he does it. And there's a big difference between talkers and doers. And he's done a magnificent job. One of the things I'd like to share with the audience, they may not know, he's also the founder and operator of the LunaScan project, which monitors and looks for events on the Earth's moon surface. It's a fantastic idea, and he's done it for, I don't know, probably a decade or two. I don't know how far back it goes, Fran.
No, we started in 1997, and we had to kind of phase out of it for a few reasons, but not before we had some fantastic discoveries. And what disappoints me, you mentioned you had some disappointments. Whenever, it was June of 2016, we get images all the time, and they always turn out to be a disappointment. And most of them, they'll say a NASA image, but they don't give you a clue as to where on the moon the image was taken or the image numbers. And some of them look pretty good, and then when you dig deeper, they fall apart. Well, this was just another image that we were looking at, and I just decided, as a routine, to see if it would go as far as it appeared, might go, because this time we had numbers. We had some NASA LRO, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter numbers. They're pretty long numbers. And I was amazed when I actually went to the NASA site and pulled that image up. I about fell out of my chair. Because first of all, you're looking at a big scene, and you can just barely see what looks like an obelisk, or just like the Washington Monument, and it was right dead center of an area that was like a flat crater, like it had been cleared, like the land had been cleared, and this object had been placed there.
And we've got to take a break, so I'm going to cut you off and save the best for after break. I am Erica Lukes here with two incredible people, Peter Davenport and Fran Ridge. You can go to newfork.org to check out the National UFO Reporting Center and the incredible work they do. And then also go to NICAP.org and learn about MADAR, learn about NICAP. This is an exciting time. The best is yet to come. Stick around. We will be right back.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified. UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
All systems go!
Tuesday's midday just got a bit more interesting on the KCOR Digital Radio Network as Cheryl Costa returns to the celestial airwaves with Cosmic Questions.
I know. I'm pretty excited about it.
Your 1 hour dose of informative as well as entertaining talk radio, live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We're opening the doors of the unknown just for you.
Oh, that's crazy.
Cosmic Questions, hosted by Cheryl Costa, challenges you to expand your reality of the universe. Join Cheryl Costa as she brings her unique sense of humor and charm to the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
It's just good, clean fun.
Every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Cosmic Questions. Finally, the doors of the unknown are opening. Will you be there?
I'm telling you, she is a real ball buster.
Hi, Vancouver. George Norrie here, inviting you to join me and producer Tom Danheiser on June 30th at the 4th Annual Architects of the New Paradigm Conference. This will be a groundbreaking, jam-packed event featuring Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, Richard Dolan, Daniel Sheehan, Johnny Enoch, and Victor Vigiani. You don't want to miss this one, so watch the 3-minute video and get tickets at anpconference.com. That's anpconference.com. anpconference.com.
It's great. The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Please make a note of it. It's great.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Monday nights are about to become hauntingly good as Reverend Sean Whittington possesses the airwaves with Vegas Supernatural. Tune in every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for Vegas Supernatural, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. There's a war raging between good and evil. The question is, which side are you fighting on? Tune in Monday nights as Reverend Sean Whittington sets the new standard for paranormal radio with some of the most influential personalities in the world today. Vegas Supernatural, hosted by Reverend Sean Whittington, every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The one show even the devil doesn't want you to hear.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to UFO Classified. I'm thrilled to be here every Friday and share with you the research that I'm doing and give you information that I believe is critical for all of you. We need to get through the disinformation, the misinformation, the delusional beliefs to find credible sources. And I really work my butt off to get these people here so you can learn. I appreciate every week getting in my chat room and seeing all of the people that support my show and that go above and beyond to do things like Northern UFOs. Again, I want to thank you for getting my radio shows out to YouTube. It's all of this work behind the scenes that helps us build this community, and I really, you all rock. So thank you very much. I am here tonight with two legends in the field, two very humble human beings, which I find most people that are credible that I want to be associated with are very, very humble, and they, like Peter said, they roll up their sleeves, they dig into it, they get out there, and they're not just sitting behind their computer. They're actually proactive and making a difference. The National UFO Reporting Center was started in 1974. Peter Davenport took it over in 1994. I encourage you to go there to read his information. And if you have a sightings report, please go there and go to newfork.org. Put it in there, especially if you're in Utah. And then Fran Ridge, who has been in this game for a long time, Lunascan, Madar, all of these things. What great contributions you have both made. So thank you very much. When we were last here before our break, we were talking about Lunascan and an interesting thing that Fran found out or observed. So Fran, please continue.
Yeah, as I was saying, when I looked at the image, it was backed away, in the first shot, so that when you click on it with the left click, it gets closer and closer. And right at the beginning of the scanning of the image, you can see this huge flat crater that looked like the land had been cleared for something in the center. But as you pump the image up, then all of a sudden, what I thought, or what had looked like an obelisk, was really the shadow coming off a tubular object lying on the ground. And then there was another one at almost a 45-degree angle that was also lying near it, casting shadows. So we were actually seeing the shadows, is what caught our attention. These objects were around 50. One of them was around 50 feet in diameter and around 300 feet long, and the other one was about 25 feet in diameter and 200 feet long. And there are small craters near them, that are embedded in material that looks like it was ramped up to protect them. Just looked like someone took a bulldozer and ramped the dirt up, or the lunar regolith, up to the sides of the tubular objects. And the little craters were in that. So that told me right off the bat that whatever these were, they had been there a very long time. I had been reading at the same time about the rills or not the rills, but the lava tubes on the moon that had collapsed. And you could actually see like little windows into these holes. And I thought possibly these might be surface lava tubes, where the end that actually ended up where it had broken away from the other segment. And but my team then, and still is, Ananda Surasena and Mark Carlotto, and we all three got involved in doing the analysis on that. Mark did a series of videos, and we wrote a web-page report, and then finally did an actual report and placed it out there. And what really bothered me was, after all this time, NASA had been looking for ancient aliens. They thought, well, while we're doing this, why don't we look for ancient aliens? They seem to believe in ancient aliens, but they don't want to believe in current aliens. And that's how Carl Sagan felt. And this one gentleman had put out several papers about that. He said, while we're out there, we'll look at these images. We'll develop an algorithm that will scan all these images very quickly, and anything that's a little suspicious, it'll kick it out, and then we can look at it closer. So I'm thinking, this is great. I'm going to report this to these guys. I'd been working with one man, I won't mention his name, in NASA. He's actually one of the bigwigs in the LRO. And he had congratulated me on an idea I had for putting up a camera satellite at the Lagrange point between the Earth and the Moon, which would be basically free. You'd have to adjust the orbit occasionally, but you could look at the Moon on one side, and we could be watching the Moon from the images it took, live images, and it would be looking back at the Earth, just like Al Gore's much more expensive project that got funded. Anyway, he told me how great this was. He said, I just wish we had heard your idea first. So I turned these reports over to these type of people, and the door shut. There was no more communications from either one of them. And I had hoped that they would say, well, you did a great job, but that looks like that might be a lava tube. They didn't say anything. And I think the reason is because I don't believe it was a lava tube. But
Isn't that
sort of ended the Lunascan project, because we had done everything else we had planned to do. We'd scanned the moon over 100 times for a period of 1 to 2 hours, made recordings, and we had looked at all those images. So when this came along, it was at the end of pretty much what we'd planned, and I had other things to do. I was getting into the MADAR thing, so that was sort of the end of the Lunascan project. But it was very interesting, and I'm glad we found it. I think someday someone will actually take a look at that.
Fran, I'm just amazed at the groundbreaking work you've done. I mean, when you've been on the past shows and talked about the wow signal and all of these things, and it's like, I mean, to me, these are things that people need to know about because nobody else on the planet has done what you've done.
When I heard about the wow, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I said when I heard about the wow signal, that was in 2013 or 14, and of course that event took place in August 15, 1977, and it wasn't like I had time to concoct a story. I didn't even know about it. In fact, the book I wrote mentioned the wow signal, mentioned the detection that we had on that particular night, and the 6 other times that 6 weeks before. But there was no mention of a wow signal because at that time we didn't know anything about it. So it was very surprising to have that just pop up and have someone tap me on the shoulder and say, "Francis, do you realize that happened at the same time as your equipment picked up Madar 15?" And when I checked the data, I thought I'm going to find out that the time is actually wrong, that they made a mistake. But there was a time difference, a 1-hour time difference, and when you corrected that, it was at the exact same time, 130 miles away.
That is so cool. Wow. I love it. I love it. And I have to ask, because we've got a couple questions that I have been asked by my listeners, and one of them is there a particular shape of UFO that somebody should be focusing on when they're doing research? Is anything right now currently standing out more than other things?
Well, that's a tough one. Peter, you know more about that because you deal with...
Well, 2 things come to mind that I'd like to add or respond with. Number one, I would like to allude to the very fine work and resulting book done by David Marler out of Albuquerque, is where he resides. He made the very astute observation that whereas we often call UFOs flying saucers, in point of fact, about 2/3 of the reports really address triangular craft, not discs or saucers. And so that's probably the predominant type of UFO. So the other point I was going to, I've forgotten the other point I was going to make, but that's the type of UFO that is seen most frequently is a triangle. In fact, we just had a report yesterday from a gentleman in Latvia. Latvia, the central nation, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. He saw, I think it was on the 21st of April, this month, he describes very eloquently in very nice English a triangular craft that he saw for only about 3 seconds. The case is posted to our website now, and this is the type of a report that I've had numerous times, triangle with red lights in the 3 apices or corners of the triangle. So I hope that gives you an adequate response to your question.
It does. Thank you. And I have to be
everywhere.
They are, and I have to be selfish because I know that you and I are on the same page with regard to the orange red fireballs.
That was the second point I was going to make, and
yes. I knew that was going.
Thank you for reminding me. It started probably many decades ago, but it ramped up very dramatically in the last week of May of 2012. The National UFO Reporting Center started receiving reports of clusters of red, orange, yellow, amber, and gold fireballs or orbs, call them what you wish, and we have no explanation for what these objects are. I've talked to you, Eric, on this point. I think you were appointed the Director of Research or Investigation by MUFON, were you not?
I was Utah State Director for MUFON.
Yeah. And this is a very alarming, very interesting type of sighting report. And we have many what I consider to be very high quality photographs of clusters of these objects posted to our website at ufocenter.com. The interesting thing is MUFON is getting the same types of reports, and in many cases, whereas Chinese lanterns or so-called sky lanterns are a possible explanation for this, in many cases, one or more objects are seen to go streaking out of the cluster and streak over the horizon. That's hardly a sky or Chinese lantern that accelerates like that, leaving all of the others in place. So it's a very mysterious phenomenon for which we have no explanation, and it appears to have increased in volume just very suddenly. I invite any listeners who are skeptical to go to the data on our website for May of 2012 and just start reading some of the reports. I've written a number of articles for the UFO Journal, the MUFON UFO Journal, on this subject.
And you know what's really interesting, Peter, because of my love for this and my understanding this is really a critical area to research, I traveled to Hesdal in Norway a few months ago, and I had the pleasure of working for 2 weeks alongside watching Erling Strand and the Project Hesdalen team. And so when you talk about the epicenter of really important research, 35 years of research where they're utilizing funds from the government, funds from, different organizations in Italy, Germany, France, all of these incredible scientists, and they are doing it, and it doesn't have all of this confusion and noise like you see here in the United States. But it was, this is real. They have spent 35 years verifying there is intelligence, or these objects are intelligently controlled.
Yep. I agree, and I believe that's the type of work that the SETI project should be doing, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Isn't it interesting how it's okay for them to spend literally hundreds of millions of dollars peering thousands of light years into space, but looking for that same intelligence that quite clearly is visiting our planet is forbidden to them. It's sacrilege and blasphemy to think that they might be within 1,000 yards of you instead of 1,000 light years. And I've actually corresponded with members of the SETI scientific team proposing that instead of peering so far out into space, they should build passive radar systems and peer much more closely to our planet. And they didn't bother to take the bait. They apparently that was forbidden fruit. They didn't want to go there. It's tragic because they have the manpower and they have the technology and they have the funding, unlike many UFO workers and organizations. They have all the resources necessary that it could allow them to build a passive radar system for detecting UFOs, and they've voluntarily elected not to do so.
And I have to say that I really honestly think this is something that is just taking place in the United States. And I don't know whether that's the fact that we've seen decade after decade, the fact that the government has been discrediting people that are actually trying to do good work, and they put these little disinformation campaigns out there and try to muddy the waters, and then it makes scientists or people in academia afraid to approach the subject. And what are your thoughts on that? Do you see that people are more progressive in other parts of the world?
Would you like to handle that, Fran?
Well, I've not really been watching too closely about the actions in the other countries. I know in the past it seemed like there were those interested in their particular instances in their countries, and frankly, I was so tied up with what was going on in the United States, I was late actually getting a hold of those reports and reading them. But as of today, I don't really know too much about the the type of people that are out there. I see a lot of strange names I've never heard before that are actually getting up, making these pronouncements, and I don't know how much homework they've done. I know that some of them are jumping to a lot of conclusions very quickly, and some of them are actually missing some important information. So I really don't know. I wish I had more time to do that, but I'm finding I got less time to do things as I get a little older, because my plate was full before I got into the Lunascan project and working with the NICAP site. Now I've got the MADAR thing going, so it's taking quite a bit of my time.
Well, and that's wonderful. That's, I mean, I'll do the other research on the, on my end, because I am privy to, and I hear lots of different information with regard to that, but there are patterns here when you look at the way you get these certain individuals, and they're the same individuals decade after decade, that will rear their heads and then, dangle a carrot over here or do this and that. And it is very, I think, distracting to good research or to where we should be headed. So I encourage people to be cautious.
The important thing is the real good, what I consider the real comprehensive, important data that we have collected and verified and duplicated is there for everybody to see. If they don't look at it now and they look at it in the future, that'll still be a very important asset. We've learned some hard lessons. We used to put up links to documents, and then a year or two later someone would say, well, that link doesn't work. So we decided, even though it was going to take up a lot of space on the website, that we would take that document, make it into a PDF file, and actually place it on our site so that it would never disappear again. And in some cases, we had to go through the chronos and systematically comb through them and fix a lot of bad links. But right now, those documents are there, and all those important reports that important people wrote, and their scientific papers that they wrote, all those things are there, no matter what the people today think and say, because like I said a while ago, I don't even know some of these people, and some of the subjects they're talking about, it's like they're in a different world than I am.
I agree. There are some people working in the field who seem devoid of common sense. Yes. And it leads me to an observation I made. This organization, this office in the Pentagon that was revealed on the 16th of December last year, 2017, was funded with $22 million. I can't imagine what I could possibly spend $22 million on in the field of UFO research. It's more a function of how much hard work you're willing to do, not how much money you have to chase the answers to your questions.
Exactly.
I don't know why a government would give an organization $22 million to conduct research. In fact, thanks to people like Fran and me and many others, there's a lot of data that's freely available. They don't have to set up a clandestine organization to secretly or furtively collect that data. It's, from my vantage point, it seems very suspect that they would be spending that much money on the field.
Yes. Peter, you mentioned, too, that that report of the FA-18, and you wondered why there weren't any other reports. The Washington Post mentioned that there were 15 other incidences, and I have tried to get a list of dates and locations, and no one seems to know anything about it.
Yeah,
I would love to see what happened in those other cases.
Yeah. The thing that troubles me, too, I welcome your statement, Fran, because I've thought along parallel lines. I don't understand the big to-do over that F-18 footage because it has been reported, in part thanks to your work, I believe, Fran, that footage had been released 2.5 years earlier by a civilian organization. So for all intents and purposes, Ellie Luis Elizondo, I believe it was, who released that footage, has released footage that was already freely available in the public forum. One other comment I'd like to make, and that is, you were talking about documents just a few minutes ago. We may have a few skeptics listening to us on this program, and if they would like to satisfy themselves with regard to the very concrete nature of anomalous events, I would encourage them to go to the Lunascan website and look at the NASA Technical Report 277, and you may have discovered it before I did, Fran, but it is a compilation of about, I think it's 600 reports taken from the handwritten notes of some of the world's leading astronomers over the last 500 years, who apparently have seen very anomalous events that have appeared on the surface of the moon. And am I correct, Fran, that it's still available on your site?
Oh yeah, when we found it, we made a file of that and placed it on the site, and we were going to use that as a checklist to actually look up the events and document them, but there's so many there. I have to say one thing before I forget it. The Lunascan site is still up. I don't know how long it'll be up. We cannot change it. We cannot add on anything to it for all practical purposes. I mean, even if we created a new one, we couldn't get the old one down, so people would be getting unupdated information. What's happened is, because of the way things change and email addresses changed, whenever someone tried to contact us, we had changed our email addresses and they were unable to reach us. And the person that sponsored that site probably passed away. In any case, it's just laying there, and there's nothing we can do with it.
And that is so heartbreaking. We're going to take a break, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. I am grateful to be here. I am Erica Lukes here with two heroes, in my opinion, Peter Davenport and Fran Ridge. We will take a break, and we will be back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows, visit her website at UFOclassified.com. UFO Classified. UFO Classified. This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51. Wait, that doesn't exist. This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the second half of UFO Classified. I am Erica Lukes, and I am grateful to be here tonight. I want to say thank you to everyone who gets into chat. You are my friends. You're my people. I love you. Thank you for the support. And every week the chat numbers seem to grow, and I get messages from all over the world. People who are wanting to share their experiences, people who want good information. This is a pivotal time. I've stated this on numerous shows. It is critical because right now we're seeing a real push to give out some misinformation or to steer the narrative. And so we have to be cognizant of that, and we have to be very grounded in our approach. So when I bring people on my show, I bring people that I trust, people that have the work to back it up, and I want you to listen and to learn from them. My guest this evening, Peter Davenport, who has been a one-man show at the National UFO Reporting Center, and I have to give him a lot of credit for doing that. And he answers phone calls. You know, he's available. He's got a 24-hour-a-day hotline. I love it. And then Fran Ridge, who has done important work with NICAP and Lunascan and MADAR, which is going to break ground, as we have talked about on past shows. I encourage each and every one of you, if you're out there, you care about the subject, to not waste your funds on membership fees or things when you could actually buy a MADAR unit, put it in your home, and then look at the New Fork database and really figure out what's going on. We're going to take this forward. So welcome back, both of you, to the show. And Fran, when we had to cut you off again right at a pivotal moment, so continue, please.
Well, I think we were talking about the Lunascan site possibly losing that. Is that what we were talking about?
Yes, yeah, yep.
So I think we resolved that on the break. We're going to be contacting the people that we now have a number to call and see if we can get things rolling again. But something I wanted to bring up. Peter was talking about the orbs a while ago, and I know that you don't have a lot of people on listening to your show that are actually skeptics. But there are some that are a little skeptical maybe about the people who do the work. And I just want you to know that, you know, just like most families, we've had birthdays and we've sent up jack-o'-lanterns, and everybody's enjoyed watching things like this. So I know what they look like, and of course I've dealt with cases where people have actually seen jack-o'-lanterns. And at one time a television station had an incident they wanted me to check out, and I reported that that's what it was. And it turns out that the people that had sent them up sort of confessed to it. But the other thing is, we had a sighting in January where 3 pairs of 2 orange orbs passed from west of Evansville to east of Evansville and then turned southeast. And these objects had traveled 15 miles in 6 minutes. And we're looking at each set doing that. So that's pretty darn fast for a jack-o'-lantern. And also there was reports of a jet aircraft. It wasn't a conventional jet, it was a military jet, because when we checked with the control tower, the only commercial flight was at 37,000 feet. So there's more to this than people think, and we're not as gullible as some of those people think we are.
Yeah, that's a good point, Fran. I'm pleased to hear you say that. And for those people who are skeptical, I would direct them to at least 2 of the reports of clusters of fireballs or orbs on our website at ufocenter.com. One is from the 5th of July, 2013, Athens, Texas. That report was submitted by a former U.S. astronaut who's flown twice on the space shuttle. He had a number of those go right over his head going from east to west. He said to me during one of many telephone conversations I had with the gentleman, he said he didn't know what they were, but he was certain that they had not been manufactured on the planet Earth. A very solid report, again, the 5th of July, 2013. The second report I would comment on comes from Glendale, Arizona, Glendale is a sort of a bedroom community on the northwest corner of Phoenix. That report was submitted on the 28th of September 2013 by a retired Arizona Highway Patrol officer who saw 150 objects, he estimates, pass from west to east just to the north of his home. Very interesting, very, in my opinion, highly reliable sources and reports. I estimate that I've taken between 20,000 and 30,000 such reports over the last 6 years.
Wow.
And that is mind-blowing. And I want to say, because you get, every once in a while, you get comments from people just saying that, why isn't Newfork working with researchers in the field? Why aren't they releasing data? Yada, yada, yada. And I mean, to me, it's like, well, this is a one-man show, and he is doing a huge service. And so it's really interesting to me to hear some of these critics in the field. And then you look at MUFON that gets a lot of money funneled into that organization, and they're doing this for the benefit of mankind. But again, you can't get access to the data. And when I was state director, I would look for cases, and they weren't, there were cases that were deleted. So I couldn't even get access. And I was paying to be a member of MUFON or paying to be a state director.
Yeah. Well, if people criticize me for not getting the data out, I don't know how I could do a better job than what I'm doing unless I posted data daily. I'm pedaling as fast as I can to get information to the American people, and in fact to people around the world. Anyone who has a computer has access to our data. I've collected 117,000 reports that are posted to our website, and it's freely available to anybody who'd like to read it.
Yes.
The problem is, just a comment, most people are not consuming the data. Most people want to see it on a video or on a television screen, but that's not the best way to assimilate detailed information. They have to read the cases and see the subtleties that have been included in the reports. So if anybody thinks I could be doing a better job, I would encourage them to contact me and let me know what I could be doing to maximize the value of the information I release.
Well, and
the
go ahead.
skepticism started a long time ago, didn't it, Peter?
It sure did. I agree.
First thing they said was, if somebody would see a UFO that wasn't the town drunk, we would have something. And then they would say, if somebody would get a photograph of one of these things, we would have something. If somebody would pick these up on radar, it would make a lot of sense. Now we have, 600 radar cases on our site, and there's a lot more than that. So,
yeah,
and they're all documented. So there'll always be.
There will always be, and I'm sorry to cut you both off, but I mean, there always will be skeptics. And the thing that is so alarming to me is the fact that there are skeptics in a field where we should be supporting each other. And you look at the way some of these organizations or key, quote unquote, researchers in the field that have the public ear are trying to steer the narrative. And it's like, okay, at what point in time do we collectively, as a group of concerned people who really care about the integrity of the field, just say, this is not working?
I'd like to go back for just a moment, if you'd allow me, to your comments, Fran, about the fireballs and the case you had. I think you said there were 6 of them that went from one side of Evansville to the other and then made a turn.
Yes.
One of the proofs of the pudding, if you will, in fireball cases is whether they're traveling with the prevailing wind or without. And one of the things I frequently ask witnesses to do after they first called the hotline is contact the National Weather Service or the local FAA flight service station and get the direction and the velocity of the prevailing winds at altitude, that is, winds aloft. And that will give you a first good hint as to whether the objects are traveling and drifting with the wind or whether they might be self-propelled and going in a different direction from the prevailing wind. That's just a recommendation to anybody who's listening who in the future might see one of these displays of fireballs and be inclined to report it. That wind data is very important.
Absolutely, and it is interesting to me. I mean, when I learned from Project Hessdalen, who has done extensive 35 years worth of research on anomalous light phenomena, you look at, or you go to NARCAP, where you've got Project Sphere or things like this. I mean, you've got great information out there so people can learn about this and realize that these objects are seen in flight corridors for international airports. They are seen over military bases. Yes, it's really easy to write these things off and say they're flares or Chinese lanterns or A, B, C, and D, but sit back and really look and get out there and do field research.
I think it's interesting that we're getting all these orb reports at a time when drones are popular, and I'm not trying to say that that's what they are. I'm just saying it seems like the phenomena is only just a little bit ahead of us, knowing that that's not really true, but yet it's almost like they're using a technology that allows them to do things that before was easy to spot. I mean, people saw flying saucers back in the 40s and 50s, and the egg-shaped objects in the 60s, and then in the 70s, the aircraft-shaped or triangles became real prominent. And then now you've got the orbs. I think you mentioned one time about half of the reports you get are orbs.
I suspect that's the case, Fran. Plus or minus maybe 10 or 20%. I haven't quantified it, so I hesitate to commit to a figure, but I think you're pretty close to the mark there.
Well, see, now we know that something small can do a tremendous job where you wouldn't require a 30-foot disk to fly over a city. You could send an orb that's 2 feet or 6 feet in diameter over a city or an area, and in fact, it could even do a tremendous job in orbit. We see that, more and more. But there's a tremendous amount of things they could do using that technology.
And I want to go back to, the fact that all of us, all three of us understand that there's something here, that there's an intelligence here. And, Peter, you said something at the beginning of the show with regard to the fact that we should be concerned because perhaps whatever this is could be influencing us. Can you elaborate on that?
I would be happy to. And it's my greatest concern, Erica. And for example, I'll share with our listeners just how far afield I allow my mind to roam when it comes to UFOs and where they come from, and most of all, what they might be doing here. I look at, for example, the indebtedness of the United States, reputed to be about $21 trillion now. And the question I ask, and I ask it more rhetorically than scientifically, is could it be the case that the human population on this planet is being led down a primrose path to our own destruction? What better way could there possibly be than to indebt them so deeply that they'll never recover, never get back on their financial feet? And there could be other things as well. The development of weapon systems. The imagination probably runs wild along these lines, but my suspicion is they have some kind of influence over human beings, either individuals or populations of humans. And I don't feel uncomfortable with that statement in the least because of the fine work done by Bud Hopkins and Dr. David Jacobs and a whole bunch of people who have documented to my satisfaction the fact that aliens have a grasp of technology that allows them to influence what people believe and what they do. So if that's the case, do we have any guarantee that they're not doing this to political leaders, for example? I think the clear answer is we have no such guarantee.
And that opens a lot of questions. I mean, you see people involved in this, and they wonder if perhaps this isn't something that is demonic. You know, is it truly extraterrestrial? What is this? I don't think we really don't know what we're dealing with, and that is very unsettling. And I think that, but at the same time, I look at, you know, when you've got To the Stars Academy coming out and everything is put out there with it, the threat. I mean, the experiences I've had have been pretty positive. And so I think that there is something, I think there's so many things going on that I hate to use the word threat to disempower people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. One other point I'd like to make is one of the things I often think about is we look at all these ghastly crimes that have been perpetrated recently, most of all mass shootings, and I ask myself, could there possibly be an alien motivation, an alien involvement in some of these things? To be sure, there are a lot of crazy people in our society who are capable of desperate acts, and that's a tragedy, of course. But could it also be the case that they have been induced to do this for one reason or another? And the point I'm addressing, or what I have in mind, is could these crimes be being influenced or perpetrated in order to get the majority of people to the opinion that it's time to get rid of all firearms? Well, in my opinion, it's just about the wrong time to disarm the American people, particularly if we have guests that have come from other parts of our galaxy. I'm a Second Amendment advocate, but most of all, for reasons that most people would laugh at. We probably have some listeners laughing at the examples I've cited, but I think it's important that any species maintain the ability to defend itself with regard to any potential harm that might be inflicted to us.
And these are all really critical points to address, and I really wish that some of the key figures in this area of study could sit down and have a roundtable discussion about this. I mean, that's what we really need to do. How would we interact with this? How, A, B, C, and D, we need to plan these things out instead of waiting for any government disclosure. That's not going to happen. But, for me, when I had a couple months ago, probably one of the best guests I've ever had on my show, and his name is Bishop Brian Ouellette, and he's a Catholic exorcist. And he, which was shocking, but he basically said that there are energies or beings that are around us, and because we don't resonate with their frequencies, that it causes physical harm to us. And I wonder, when you've got areas like Skinwalker Ranch and you see or you hear from other researchers that there is a higher instance of maybe perhaps crime or suicide or things like that maybe because we're in close proximity to this, that affects us physically and mentally, and maybe that's not the fault of whatever this is. And then I throw out there, could it be that indigenous peoples understood this, and that's why they had sacred sites that most people weren't allowed to go?
Yeah, very interesting observation. I think there are a lot of things that go on around us probably all the time that people are ignoring for one reason or another, that give us very important insight into what reality is. I'm thinking most of all of the reports we take on the 4th of July, and this has been the case over the last decade or so. I would encourage people to look at the reports from the evenings of 4th of July from all across the country, even from overseas locations. And many skeptics would be inclined to say, I suspect, and have said to me, well, 4th of July, obviously we know what those lights were. They were fireworks. But if you look at some of the photographs that we've posted to our homepage for the 4th of July, it's very easy to see that these objects have nothing to do with fireworks displays. I'm thinking of one case from the 4th of July 2014 in Seattle. A triangle of orange lights hovered over Lake Union. This is very close to the Space Needle for probably 10 or 15 minutes, and it was before the fireworks display had begun. Anybody who would like to see those photos is invited to go to UFOcenter.com, scroll down to our posting shortly after that date, and look at the photo we posted there.
And that's an excellent point.
I think a lot of that happens because you got a lot of people out on those particular nights, so it makes it a lot easier to see things that they normally wouldn't observe. So that's kind of working as well. But
yeah.
And wouldn't that be the case with the Phoenix Lights? I mean, there were people, tens of thousands of people outside to look at something, quote unquote mundane, but they were looking up and they saw something absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah. The Phoenix Lights, in my opinion, was probably the leading candidate for having been the most dramatic UFO sighting in the history of ufology. For example, what leads me to that statement is the fact that the one object that was seen hovering very close to Camelback Mountain for an estimated 5 minutes was 8.23 miles from wingtip to wingtip is our calculation. And for anybody listening to us who has a good command of trigonometry, I'll give them the figures and they can do the calculation themselves. The object was reported by an Air Force pilot to be 9,000 feet above ground level.
And that is amazing, and I've got to cut you off right there because, of course, we've got a break. I'm Erica Lukes here with two of the best, Peter Davenport and Fran Ridge. We will be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
Child of a Democrat commissioner, politician with power. Are you kidding me?
Egomaniac.
I just know that if it were me, I'd get busted.
Of course, if it was you, would get busted. While the cops just finally get out and start. I mean, this isn't like an after-the-fact mom showed up. She was like on it in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah. Obviously, she was called while the cops were pulling them over. She showed up in just the nick of time, right after everything was handled and paperwork. And all of a sudden, she was there in time to bitch at the cops about what they were doing.
Unbelievable.
Which was their jobs.
Yeah. How dare you do your job when it comes to my kid?
Well, Democrats aren't real big on documentation.
Well, that's true.
What?
That's true. They don't like paper trails.
They don't like paper trails.
Democrats aren't real big on documentation. Say it again.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Listen up, everyone.
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
There is a world outside that which we live in. A realm where fact and fiction collide. The Paradigm Matrix.
The Paradigm Matrix.
Hosted by Willie Miranda. Every Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now in this very room.
The 1 hour show that will surely leave you hanging on the edge of the rabbit hole.
The Paradigm Matrix
explores a universe of topics from UFOs, cryptozoology, conspiracies, as well as all things paranormal.
Enter a world of the twisted and deformed.
Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The Paradigm Matrix. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, where fact and fiction collide. Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the celestial highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific.
For Hyperspace.
The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven.
Solaris Blue Raven.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, and it is always sad to come back for the fourth and final segment of UFO Classified, because that means the show is almost over. But I want to tell you that I truly believe Fran Ridge and the MADAR team, they have developed something that is incredibly important. If you can reach out and get a MADAR device, which honestly is only $199.99, instead of spending money paying a subscription or on other things. I mean, this is incredible. You could get this device. You could help get these devices in really key areas, and then we can use the data from Newfork and move things forward. This is an exciting time, so I encourage you to go to NICAP.org/materials and learn about MADAR. I know that Northern UFOs has a MADAR in his neck of the woods, so I'm really excited about that. Peter Davenport is here with the National UFO Reporting Center. I love having both Fran and Peter on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so we've been talking about a lot of things, but with regard to moving things forward and the passive radar, Peter, tell us about passive radar.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting story, and the possibility of detecting UFOs using reflected electromagnetic systems or electromagnetic waves came to me in January of 1995, and it came to me in a bit of a panic because when I took over the UFO hotline from Bob Gribble, who founded it, I did so assuming that I would be taking maybe 3, 4, or 5 calls per week. I had no idea how many calls I would be expecting. Before I knew it, I was taking 3, 4, or 5 dozen calls per day, And I panicked because it was a lot of work and it just took me over. So I started thinking about what we could use to automate this system, what we could do to automate the detection of UFOs, and then it hit me that when I was working in the venture investment industry, our company had been approached by a company in Kent, Washington called Meteor Communications Incorporated. And what they did was bounce radio signals off the tails of meteors traveling through the Earth's atmosphere very rapidly. They generate a cone of activated ions, ionized air, essentially. And I said to myself, gee, if you can detect meteors, meteor trails, why couldn't you detect something else? And that was the beginning of my idea. I contacted Meteor Communications Corporation and bounced my idea off of them, and they thought it was a great idea. Well, in 1995, shortly after I'd come up with this idea, I met with Bob Bigelow down in Las Vegas and apprised him of my idea and said we could build a system that would detect UFOs up to 12 or 1,500 miles away, or even farther than that, depending on the power of the original signal. We can use commercial radio and television signals to reflect them off of UFOs and detect the reflected signal using just very mundane radio receivers, and then analyze that system, analyze the reflected signal to triangulate on the craft or the source of the reflection, and then track it. That would tell us whether we're dealing with an airliner that would be moving at maybe 500 or 550 miles an hour, or whether it's something else. If it's traveling at 20,000 miles an hour, that's clearly not a flight of Canadian geese or a commercial airliner. So we have the technical wherewithal today and the computer power and the time measurement devices in the form of global positioning system to allow us to build one of these systems. And Bigelow Aerospace declined interest. They said it can't be done, but the final point I would make is that the U.S. Navy, the Naval Space Surveillance System that stretches from San Diego over to Fort Stewart, Georgia, is what was used. It's a passive radar system reflecting a radiated signal from the ground, and that's what allows the Navy to track objects in orbit around the planet to be able to assess them for their danger to the American homeland. So if people are interested, they can go to the UFO Center website and homepage, and there's a 16-page paper that I wrote for a MUFON symposium back in 2004 in which I described the system. It will work. I'm sure it will.
We also have that on the NICAP site.
Oh, you do? Well, thank you for the support, Fran.
Yeah.
The one additional codicil I'll add to my monologue here. The day that MUFON published my paper on passive radar and using it to detect UFOs, I got a telephone call from a very senior officer at the Central Intelligence Agency. He's very well known to the UFO community. He has an abiding interest in UFOs. And he called me up and he said, "I am so-and-so, Peter. I won't identify him here." He probably would like the privacy that we offer to everybody. But he said, "I'm a senior officer at the Central Intelligence Agency." He said, "To give you some idea of how senior I am the person who gives the president his morning briefing at 6:30 every morning." He said, "Somebody just laid an abstract of your paper on my desk in which you describe the system you'd like to build, and I'm calling to congratulate you, because if you build the system you've described, you will be successful in resolving or answering the question of whether UFOs are real or not." He didn't say you'll detect UFOs. That probably would have had him violating a secrecy oath he had signed. He said you will be successful in answering the question of whether UFOs are real or not. So all we need is the money now.
And so I have to ask you, I mean, has anybody from To the Stars Academy reached out to either of you in attempt to give you funding or to work with you to learn from your expertise?
Not in my case. Not in our case.
I haven't heard anything from them, and it's really interesting because the UFO Center had released a number of very interesting and very dramatic aviation-related or radar-recorded UFO sightings. One in particular it comes to mind, and it was from June 22nd, 2000. An airliner over Providence, Rhode Island, had a UFO go right by it, and it was recorded on radar. Every bit as dramatic as the F-18 footage that To the Stars Academy had released. So I'm mystified by again, it goes back to the issue of what they're doing with $22 million. I don't know how you could spend that amount of money on UFO research. It's more a function of hard work and rolling your sleeves up and wading into the snapping crocodiles to get the data and get it posted so the American public can enjoy it.
I wish I could mention one man's name, but he wouldn't want me to divulge it. But one man that's interested in Madar gave us $1,000 within minutes after I posted an email that said we want to subsidize Madar units near missile sites. And I mentioned we'd like to put them near the Wyoming field and North and South Dakota and other areas where we know missiles are located. And we are able to subsidize 50% of any device going into an area like that. We already have one going into Helena, Montana, as soon as they get it put together. So we have people in our ranks that are willing to do it. If we could just find people outside that had the money, it would be absolutely great.
Well, and we'll put that out there, and I'll keep putting that out there. I know that my listeners have been, slowly but surely they're buying units and they're understanding the importance, and we'll just keep at it. And then with the latest developments, joining forces with you, Peter, this is really cool and very exciting. Nothing like this has been done before, and this is where it needs to go.
Yeah, I think Fran has really done a magnificent job. He's sort of visionary in the sense of having a network of the Madar units across the country to monitor the presence of any possible UFOs is a magnificent idea. Fran, could you take a minute or two to describe for our audience and for me how the Madar units work? What do they register?
The present unit is very small. It's about the size of a pack of cigarettes or a cell phone, and it is connected to the internet by a Ethernet cable. You don't even have to have a computer, but everybody that has one naturally wants a computer to interact with it. The device picks up the changes in the local magnetic field in two different ways. It measures the actual field in milligauss, and then it also shows the change in the compass heading, which is the compass heading was how the original Madar worked, and we had 26 events with that. We knew that it would work. In fact, there's 150 cases where compass needles moved, anywhere from prospectors' compasses all the way up to gyro compasses on airplanes and ships. So we knew that would work. But our device is so much more sensitive. In fact, that's where we're having some issues. But it is so sensitive, and every event that it records is timestamps with the universal time code. So the data, it actually looks at the data 15 times a second, but it only records a reading of date, time, compass heading, milligauss reading, plus barometric pressure, and then the universal time code. That line is posted every minute, but the minute it goes into alert mode, which we call alert start, the pace picks up to once per second, which is 60 times faster, and it does that until the event's over. All of this is sent to our server, and then the server sends out these readings to the map, which anyone can look at the map. at madar.site. Very simple site to remember. And when you look at the map, you see these dots, which have the numbers on them. The number is not the reading. The number is the node number. So when you left-click on that, you get those readings I was telling you about, but that's a 1-minute reading. Now, when you go into the data, you get to see the lines. You get to see all the lines. And we're actually a little shy of our plans of having a elaborate system where it calls the cell phone and tells you there's an alert. We didn't realize we would have that much trouble doing that. Right now, it is a data logger, basically, but it is a detector in the sense that on the screen you see the dots turn red and there's a beep. But we're very close to having that dream come true, where it actually phones the cell phone. But I have to say this: in the 26 incidents we had with Madar proper, and then the 3 or 4 with Madar 2. Not once did we actually go out and see anything. It was always something that turned up in the data from sighting reports. So I don't think anyone would be missing anything at this point, but we're getting very close to accomplishing that.
Yeah. It sounds like a very sensitive system. Can it be influenced by passing automobiles and the electromagnetic field generated by inverters or generators in a car? Or is it more or less immune from that?
It's very sensitive, but not that sensitive in the sense that if you place it in your room and you use a small AM radio tuned to the left of the dial, you can walk around in the room and find the quietest place to locate it. And within a foot or two of that, you have your routers and your printers and your computers, and they don't affect it. But
and I just have to say, Peter,
than we thought it would be.
Peter, would you please be my co-host, because you ask the best questions?
Would I what?
Would you be my co-host, because you ask the best questions?
You flatter me more than I deserve. I feel the same way about Fran. He's the type of UFO investigator I have the highest regard for. Somebody who's really done the work. So you're very kind.
This is like the what I love doing this show for, because I every time I get done with a show and I have people like Fran or Barry or you, Peter, on the show, it's like this is such an excellent opportunity to instill like a sense of excitement in a younger generation and to give them hope and to give them good information. And I know that we have to continue this work. And we have to do whatever it takes, like both of you have done, to do this and carry it forward. So this is really exciting for me.
Well, you're very kind to have us both on, and programs like this are very exciting to a sincere UFO investigator who has a lot to say and who wants to share it with a large number of people. The one thing we have to do as a community or a population of investigators is start getting younger people involved. When Stan and I started our careers in ufology, we were in our teens or 20s or even younger. And I don't see that too many people of that age category are coming into the field who have the kind of technical background it requires to do meaningful work in the field of ufology. It's sort of disappointing. I have file cabinets full of data. I don't know what I'm going to do with them when I die.
I have an idea because I've got a very amazing library here that has access to the public. So I'm just telling you, I might be your girl.
Yeah, okay. I will consider that.
Thank you.
But we've got to get more serious investigators into the field to continue the hard work that's been done by people like Francis Ridge over the course of the last half century or even more. So,
and that's
tell you what, though, guys, it's like eating an elephant, though. At the time that you start doing it, and as you're working on it, it's just a little more and a little more, and before you know it, this tremendous record you developed. And I had no plans to do anything that would be fantastic in my life, but I got to say this: there is hope for us, because there's a young lady that was 14 years old that got on our NICAP list from Scotland. Her name is Laura Elliott, and she had done some FOIA requests and had found some FBI documents. And boy, we'll take those kind of reports from anybody. But she did such an excellent job. And then about a week or two ago, someone sent us a letter, a handwritten letter of a sighting from Indiana that I couldn't read, let alone transcribe. So I'm always passing these kind of things off to my list, and I put it up on the list. And I said, this is a daunting task, and I wish someone could do this. And within 2 hours, she had transcribed that report. And Barry Greenwood and Jan and all of them were taken aback by her fantastic work. I mean, she is awesome. And, of course, now she's about ready to go to college, and there's hope if there's just more people like that out there, and I'm sure there is. If they know that, first of all, they don't have to go read a bunch of books from the library, they can go to the NICAP site.
Yes.
And they can get just about anything they want.
Or they can come to my new library in Utah, or they can go to Greenwood Archives, or visit Project 1947. Yes. I mean, there are so many, and get on New Fork and look at the data. And I mean, honestly, that's what I do is I go to New Fork and I look at the sightings reports, and hey, there are sightings that occur time after time historically in certain areas. Get out, get your camera, go do some field research. I mean, there are things that we can do to be proactive to step this up to the next level.
Yeah. I'm going to have to come to Utah and look at your library, Erica. That would be a lot of fun.
Oh, you know what? I'm so excited, and I would love that. And then I could take you to, Skinwalker Ranch and out by Dugway. We would have a really great time. And Fran, you should come too.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah. And wouldn't that be fun? Maybe we need to have like a meeting in our neck of the woods here and do that.
You mentioned Skinwalker Ranch. Do you have access to that ranch, Erica?
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
Okay.
But I've done extensive research in that area, and I will continue to do that. And I think that good things are happening at Skinwalker Ranch, and yes, so that's where we're going to go there. But it's an exciting time, and it's so fun to see everybody re-energized and doing good things. And so what I just have to say, we talked about the Phoenix Lights and how that was, Peter, to you, the most important case because we had so many eyewitnesses. Fran, what is the most important case to you?
Good Lord, that's a good question. That the Phoenix Light case was sort of lost in the shuffle, even though it got quite a bit of publicity. But it should have been the case that shook everyone up and got things done. But when you look further back, you had the sightings in Michigan that actually caused the hearings in California in 1968 because President Ford was interested in the sightings in his state. You remember that, don't you, Peter?
I sure do. It involved those college students from the college. They saw the objects from their dormitories, as I recall.
And of course, that's where swamp gas came from. That's when Hynek was called in to provide the explanation, and he used the word swamp gas, and no one forgot that.
Yeah, and he did it as a joke, as I remember.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. The other case that
go ahead.
In mind is the abduction of Travis Walton. Given the fact that occurred in sight of 6 witnesses, I think we can assume that it's a legitimate case. I know Travis well, and I hold him in extremely high regard. And that's, in my opinion, also a leading candidate for the most dramatic case in all of ufology.
I love that. And so... And we've got and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Fran, but we've got about a minute until show close. But your parting thoughts, I mean, what can we do? What can a younger generation do to move this forward?
Well, I would say if they can't do anything that they know that would be of service to us, then they can help fund those that will do it.
Yep. Just in a closing comment, the best thing they can do is if they encounter anybody who's seen a UFO or thinks he's seen a UFO, report it using either the NICAP site or Newfork and direct people to it so they will know of it.
And I will do that, and we will keep working together. And I want to say I knew this was going to be an incredible show. I have much more to ask both of you. So, Peter, just expect that I'm going to be calling you, and same with you, Fran.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for the opportunity to appear, Erica. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I know. I love this. And thank you so much. I want to tell all of my listeners, again, I appreciate your support. Make sure you share the information, let people know about the show. I want to, again, thank Northern UFOs for just doing such a great job and giving me tons of bats. And Amy, all of these wonderful people, you are the reason I'm here. Willie Miranda is up next, and he will be really doing a great interview with Ray Hernandez. I want to thank my producer, Tina Marie, and station owner. This is a great station. I feel that we are doing a lot to bring respect, ethical standards, professional standards into this field. We are going to move this forward and make a difference. I am Erica Lukes. I will catch you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.